Two different applications, but we're going to start with Adobe Illustrator with a web common preset. Go ahead and hit create, and we're going to start off by saving our project right away. All right, so go ahead, file, and save to Creative Cloud, and go ahead and call it semi-transparent logo. Then what we're going to do is create a circle. So I'm going to hold shift with the ellipse tool, and I'm going to create it so that it's 700 pixels by 700 pixels. So notice right here, my properties panel, I can actually enter in the exact figure that I want right here. If this is pressed, then it's going to automatically change the corresponding dimension. So notice right here that my width changed, so I'm not circular right here, so I'm going to unpress that, and that way I can get the exact dimensions that I want. All right, the next step is going to be to turn off the stroke. All right, so I don't want a stroke on this. I do want a solid fill, however. We are then going to create a second circle. But first, we're actually going to align this, right? So I'm going to align both of those. I'll create a second circle. Another way that I can set the dimensions just by clicking one time. It'll ask me what size do you want this, and so I'm going to create this as a 600 pixel circle, like so. I'm going to center that like so. So now I have two circles. You can see the paths like so. I actually don't want a stroke on either of them, so I'm going to turn the strokes off, and I'm going to use my Pathfinder tool by selecting both shapes. I can click and drag through like so, or I can click on one and hold shift and click on the other, and I'm going to minus front. So I have this ring sort of shape. Then I'm going to take a rectangle and use my smart guides in order to find the midpoint of this circle right here. So you can see right here I'm at that intersection point right there. If I press Command Y, I can see that the middle of the circle is covered by this rectangle on the bottom. You may also be able to, when using the rectangle tool, just find that midpoint. You'll get that little pink guide right there. I'm going to create a rectangle that's larger than the bottom half of this ring. I'll then use my selection tool in order to select both object and minus front again. I'm going to create one final circle using the ellipse tool. This time it's going to be 550 pixels by 550 pixels. I'm going to center everything on my artboard right here. Notice that everything is sort of lined up and even and true based on the original settings. I'll use my rectangle tool again to create a rectangle to cover the bottom half of this circle so that I can minus front again. All right, next thing I'm going to do is take my rectangle tool. I'm going to create a rectangle that is 700 pixels wide, so as wide as my outer ring, and I'm going to make it 100 pixels tall. All right, so 100 pixels tall like so. But I want to use a spacer block that is going to be the distance from here to here. All right, so the width from here to here I want to be the height for the distance between the bottom here and the top right here. So you can see my smart guides help me light it up with this spacer block. All right, I can go ahead and delete that spacer block for now because I won't necessarily need it. And what I'm going to do next is create the wings or sort of tails of this banner area. And the way that I'm going to do that is by using my pen tool in order to create the following shape. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to hold the shift key, so I'm going straight across and then straight down, and then on a 45-degree angle right here, and then back over to here to the midpoint here, and then to the top right here. You can use your direct selection tool in order to adjust anything, so maybe you don't want that so far out. I'm going to position it like that. I'm also going to select these top two and just raise it up just a little bit higher like so, and I feel pretty good about the way that that looks. So now I'm going to select it, and I'm going to copy it and paste it. So Command C, Command V, and then I will transform and reflect it like so, and I'll use my smart guides in order to line it up just like so. Now if you wanted to, you could use that same spacer block that you used before in order to create that 25 pixel gap, and then this would allow you to have continuity between the spacing of all of your elements. All right, so you might go ahead and position it like so, and then use that same spacer block over here and position it like so, and I'm feeling pretty good about how that looks. All right, now I can delete the spacer block. Okay, final thing, final couple steps are going to be to file and place the pine tree image that I have on my desktop right here. I'm going to click place like so, and I'm going to image trace it with my default settings. All right, now before I hit expand, I want to go into my panel and use the advanced options to ignore white. All right, so now I've taken the raster image, I've turned it to a nice clean vector, and finally I need to expand it like so. All right, now I'm going to resize this while holding the shift key so that it's just a little bit larger than this half circle. And I'm going to position it right about here. Then I can select the pine tree and the half circle, and I can minus front. So I'm cutting out part of the logo from this frame that I've created. And then finally what we're going to do is take our type tool, point text. So I click one time, and I'm going to write I like pine trees in capital letters. And we're going to set the font to the following settings. I want its size 56, and I want the font itself to be Arial Black. And I'm going to set the tracking, that's the amount of space in between letters, to 75, and I'm going to position it right in here. Now, I can't see it because it's a different color, so I'll temporarily change it to, actually I'm going to make it gray just so I don't confuse it with the background color. And we're going to take the steps of going to Object, Expand, and that will turn the font into shapes. So you can see the shape of what each letter form looks like. I'm going to select both the rectangle and the type element, then click on the rectangle, so that becomes the key object. Notice the thicker blue line right here. That means when I center it horizontally and vertically, it's centered on the rectangle and doesn't shift that rectangle. The final step is to select both objects right here and go to Object, select both objects and then minus front. So I have cut out the letters from that shape, as you see right in here. So this is the logo that we were trying to create. Finally, let's group it like so, and then I'm going to center it horizontally again just to double check, and then vertically so it's in the middle of my screen. Save it again, and then we're going to right click on it and copy or press Command C. All right, part 2 is going to take place in Photoshop.